Dezone, which means make visible, reveal, from delos, visible, clear, from the Indo-European root, die, to shine, in popular use from 1965 with the reference to anything producing effects similar to that of the psychedelic drug or enhancing the effects of such a drug as a noun from 1956. And once again, it means to make the mind clear or to shine, right? Clear mind. You thought it was going to make you all hazy and fuzzy, didn't you?
No, once you broke it down, I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. So now we have Baba Kilindi in the building. Baba, what's going on? Can you hear me? Is everything good?
Everything's well.
Everything is well. I'm doing good. We were just talking earlier about how excited we were that you came to the great city of Atlanta and gave a lecture over there at Sadiq's Bistro on Friday night. And my guy here in the back, Thrice, came. He was very excited to finally get to hear you speak. We watched you on numerous YouTube clips, and you're like the guy when it comes to this information. So I had to have you come in on the show and speak to us. So once again, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to Atlanta. Was this your first time coming to Atlanta to do work?
No, I've been to Atlanta many times, just not recently, not the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So the city's changed a lot since the last time you were here. So was that before the Olympics, after the Olympics, kind of around that time?
Well, actually, I was supposed to have been at the Olympics, but that didn't turn out too well.
Okay.
But as a matter of fact, I did something since the Olympics, but I would do some things prior to the Olympics.
Okay. But you are headquartered out of Detroit, Michigan, correct?
Yes, I'm in Detroit.
Okay. You had a question for him. I think that'd be a good icebreaker.
Yeah, I wanted to know how exactly did you get into psychedelics and what age and what got you into that mindset in general?
Well, I mean, I got into psychedelics through martial arts.
Okay.
All traditional old martial arts have an entheogenic portion to them, meaning that they use this for their higher practice when they're practicing, the movements and things like that, like bring about the mindset of like Tai Chi. If you do Tai Chi, slow movements in normal consciousness, it's kind of like hyperized if you do it on 3 grams of mushrooms. Since I practice and teach African martial arts, they would give me some different type of brews to drink, and it would get you woozy and things like that. And then when I, in 1973, encountered the mushroom for the first time, it gave me the same type of feeling.
Okay.
So I said, this is something that I'm going to pursue in its singularity, in its single point. In other words, not inside of a brew with old leaves and dirt and rhinoceros penis and all that kind of stuff.
Rhinoceros penis, ladies and gentlemen.
So I said I'd do it just straight.
Right. Yeah, that seems better shot.
So after that, what made you start to go deeper into the realms of shroom? Or
yeah, because you push the limits. Well, you're like, let's go.
Well, I mean, it will bring you in.
It does.
It's seductive. It will bring you into the space and then, push you to go further.
Right.
See, I don't look at it as many look at it in the modern times as a medicine. Mm-hmm. It can be utilized as a medicine, just like water's a medicine, but you don't just say, give me a glass of medicine, when you want to drink water. So it's the same thing here. When I got into the depths of it, I found out that this is the realest real that there is.
Correct.
And, like I said, it pulls you in. And since psilocybin mushrooms are very, very safe, it's safer than a cup of coffee, you'd have to eat your body weight in one session to have a 50% chance of killing yourself. In other words, you'd have to eat 160 pounds.
Way more than you go.
Nobody's going to eat that much. So you'd have to eat 160 pounds of it. If you're 160 pounds to have a 50% chance of hurting yourself and harming yourself.
Right.
Now it can be psychologically challenging, but you don't have to worry about killing yourself.
Right.
And it's non-addictive, so you don't have to worry about becoming a mushroom addict.
That sounds like a magic pill almost. When you describe it, a lot of people are like, man, it can't be all. I'm like, listen, I'm trying to tell you that you don't understand. But I heard you say it's like describing sex to someone who's never had sex.
That's right. You can.
And so it's really, it's really hard to get it to somebody who's like, well, you tell me what it's like. And it's like, I can't really especially because I can't. It's different for every person, correct?
Well, yeah, but there are cross correlates.
Right.
You know, you're going to see in the beginning stages, you're going to see movement that you haven't seen before. You're going to see geometric images. You're going to see the walls undulating, the floor moving, things like that.
Oh yes, all the good stuff.
Yeah. So those things at lower doses are part of what you see. So everybody sees that, and then everybody gets into a point where they take them and they have their laugh session, where they laugh straight through for six
Stared at the mirror for 4 hours laughing, just nonstop. The first time I did 4.5, and I had a mirror, and my kids were there. They just were dying. I'm staring at the mirror for hours. Just they're like, he's laughing at me. Everybody's laughing at me.
Yeah. Everybody has their laugh session.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. I wanted to ask, because what I notice in our community, there's a lot of issues with mental health, and in the pharmaceutical side of things, they are pushing the lower dosages and all that for correcting mental health. So for the people listening who are dealing with depression, PTSD, anxiety, would you recommend mushrooms for them? Because I tell people to do them, but no one listens to me. So.
Well, this is the hottest thing in psychiatry and psychology. You know, they have conferences all over the world, Eton, Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford, University of Pennsylvania, on these particular things, dealing with entheogens for depression, for, like you said, post-traumatic stress disease, for many different mental illnesses that are being dealt with through pharmacology. And the things that happen with this, number one, again, it's very safe, it's not addicting, doesn't really move your internals around where you're in a bad place.
Right.
So
hangover,
so they're doing a lot of work at Johns Hopkins. They just got $17 million to
I saw that.
study, these type of things in psychiatry. So it's the hottest thing, like I said, in psychiatry and psychology. And they said way back in the 60s that one session of psilocybin is like 10 years of therapy.
Right.
In one
evening. That was one of your questions you had, right?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, for a person that's dealing with trauma or any type of mental health problem, what would be a prescribed dose, and what do you think the steps that the mushrooms are going to take them through? Because I've noticed for a lot of people, there's like an emotional clearing that kind of happens when they first take mushrooms. A lot of crying, a lot of, getting in touch with emotions and feelings that they haven't had in a while.
Then it seems to lighten up as you've done some work.
Well, it's actually clearing out your, the garbage mode of your computer and your brain.
Right.
And it's getting rid of, childhood trauma and, all the horrors that your family and parents maybe perpetuated on you.
It lets you know what's wrong.
So it lets you know, it kind of clears that up and then opens you up to free travel.
Right.
The thing is that when you're dealing with psilocybin, most people are microdosing, so it's actually sub-psychedelic, and you're not getting any actual psychedelic effects from it.
Right.
It's at the microdose level, it's sub-gram levels. Some people, everybody's physiologically different, so you may have somebody who takes almost up to a gram, and as long as it's not causing any type of consciousness change in a psychedelic way.
And that seems to be the main thing they're pushing online is the microdosing. It seems to be the real clinical protocol that they're approaching you with.
Yeah, but and that's a lot of that's out of fear too.
Right. That's what I was
They
going
don't
to
want
say.
people to have the King Kong doses.
Right.
And actually the macro dosing does it at a higher level.
We got people calling in already.
Macro doses do it at a higher level. You can do the same thing with the macro dose, but people feel more comfortable doing it microdosing. And then you can do both.
Okay, let's take. Go ahead and answer the phone.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and take a call. Welcome to the Street Gospel Show. Who are we talking to today?
Hello. Hello.
Looks like they hung up.
Hello. They hung up. Okay, never mind then. Call in with your questions, but try to save it to more towards the end. Give us about another 30 minutes before you call in with your questions. But yeah, where were we? I'm sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
Well, I'll ask another question then. Our listeners, and since we're in the South, this is a deep Bible Belt place. and there's also a decent Muslim community here. And so for those people listening, what would you say to the people that come from those systems who go, this is the devil maybe, or this isn't for me, or there's no, the Christianity never was using none of that stuff, or Islam never, you know, and all this, even though they all stem from mystic traditions of Sufism and, you know, the Gnosticism and all these other things of Christian nature. But for those people, what would you say to those listening?
Well, the basis of all religion and spiritual system comes from the anthropogenic plants. And the Christians, I'd probably suggest for them to read The Mushroom and the Cross by John M. Allegro, who was one of the linguists who was on the deciphering of the Dead Sea Scrolls. He deciphered the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Copper Scroll, and put it in a book called The Mushroom and the Cross. And it connects early Christianity to entheogens, to mushrooms and things like that. And Islam has its own tradition of entheogens, and every other spiritual system, including Buddhism and Zoroastrianism and Hinduism and Hinduism with, you know, that was soma from the Vedas. You know, it talks about soma, which was a mushroom brew that they drunk, and that's what was the precursor that brought about yoga and other things like this.
Another one of his questions.
He
just been hitting all his questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the connection with yoga and meditation with mushrooms and entheogens in general, and the basis of how that got created.
Well, mushrooms, meditation was built for mushrooms. It gives you the discipline to be able to maneuver your way through the hyperdimensional, ultra-dimensional, trans-dimensional realms of existence that are very close to our three-dimensional five-sense reality. So this thing is something that Braun knows us things about. Prior to that, we were just walking around trying to get food in the Sahara after the rainforest forest in Africa started to recede. And what gave us the impetus that there's something more, that there's something else, is that they encountered the psilocybin mushroom in the grasslands of Africa, and that's what showed them that there was something more. And these things are recorded in places like the Tassili Plateau in Algiers, which is in Algeria, where you have some of the oldest representations of hallucinogenic mushroom use, psychedelic mushroom use, entheogenic mushroom use.
You were showing that in the slideshow.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that I try to tell people and talk to people about this. Everyone just thinks I'm crazy. Everyone thinks, I'm like, nah, man. They're like, well, then how come my pastor don't know about this? You know, and I'm like, hey, listen. I'm like, some of them know, but most of them don't. And I was like, and you were speaking to the high priesthood in a lot of these traditions that hold this information very guarded at the higher levels in their rituals and rites and traditions, and they just don't share that a lot of times with the lesser.
Well, when priesthoods, when corruption filtered into many of different spiritual systems and, you know, different priesthoods and things like that, they didn't want people to have access on their own. You know, if you can go to the gods or whatever on your own on Saturday night, on a Saturday night in your bedroom, what you got to come to church for? Pay tithes. Why do you need an interpreter? You know, it's kind of like Bitcoin. Why do you need the middleman when you can be your own bank?
Which scares the establishment. Trying to get rid of the middleman. It's like the insurance company. I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out how to get rid of it. No, it makes perfect sense. So I was doing some research, and in the class the other day, someone did ask this, but a lot of people confuse LSD, ayahuasca, or peyote, mushroom. They all kind of just lump them as the same exact thing, but they're very different substances. Even the mushroom, the red mushroom that they left to put.
Amanita muscaria.
Yeah, right. That was not even psilocybin, right? That's a different.
That's muscimol.
Right. So could you just explain that to people a little bit, the differences in some of these things?
Well, LSD, psilocybin, ayahuasca, iboga are all basically in the same family. They're forms of DMT, dimethyltryptamine. As we said, Amanita muscaria is muscimol, peyote is mescaline. These are different compounds that aren't part of that family. Although they're part of the psychedelic family, they're not part of the DMT family. The special thing about DMT is that it's in a form where you get it outside of the body. It's exogenous brain chemistry. We produce DMT in our lungs and our liver, and also from the pineal gland. So these things our body and mind knows about. Serotonin, what our brain actually runs on day-to-day regular consciousness, is where the mushroom psilocin docks into that receptor site. It kicks the psilocin out. It kicks that out and then docks into that receptor. So our body knows exactly what this thing is. It's not something foreign. That's why, you don't have your brain on drugs, burnt up and things like that.
None of that.
Because it's natural to the body, because the body produces it.
Right.
The body just in normal consciousness doesn't produce enough of it for it to be a psychedelic effect.
Right.
Because to function in the normal, world, we don't need to be psychedelic while at work.
It makes things a little more difficult.
It makes things a little more difficult. That's
a high level.
That's something that you plan,
Right.
in the macro doses. You
Right.
plan, a Saturday night, you say, okay, I'm getting ready to do this for the evening, because it's 6 to 8 hours. So if you start at 10 o'clock, by the next morning you're ready to function. You're just hungry.
Right.
You're just hungry.
I tell people it's the only one. What's going on there? I tell people it's the only one, or only thing that I know of that I've taken where the next morning I actually feel more clear and more enlightened the day after than I did. Usually, you take something or any of these other drugs in the morning after, you hungover, you got a headache, or you just feel drained, or you can't get excited, like with ecstasy or Molly and stuff. It just depletes the serotonin. And then with this, there's none of that. It's perfectly clear. It's perfectly clean. But people just don't, no one listens. Have you, in your journeys, because you've been on this for a while, pushing this and just trying to raise this community up, how much resistance do you encounter?
In our community, I
outside
encounter quite a bit.
In the community, okay.
Quite a bit of resistance, because our people look at these things, LSD, ayahuasca, mushrooms, as a white hippie 1960s thing, and we don't want to have no part of it, because it's illegal and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in other communities, I'll be at Princeton next month. I'll be in Australia, latter part of the year in Kenya.
All over.
I'm in University of Wit in South Africa, and on and on and on.
Right.
Because this is the thing that they're doing. This is what they're pushing for, the new consciousness.
Right.
And also to clear up all of the things the trauma that the West has.
Right.
That's why young upper middle class professional Europeans are flooding Brazil and
they love
places
you.
in places in South America to go to deal with ayahuasca to clear up their Western world trauma and things like this, and become more sensitive to the world and what's going on with the world.
Right.
So mushrooms being something that is available because you can grow it yourself,
right,
and it's not harming the environment of the things that are there. So ayahuasca is being over harvested because it basically works in nature. Iboga, which is the part of the Wiki system in Gabon in West Africa, they're pulling up the plants because they're trying to service the whole world who wants this now. So it's harming the
seeds actually.
Yes, it's harvesting. They're over harvesting the plants.
Okay.
But with mushrooms, you don't need. You can grow mushrooms on a Bible.
Yeah.
Because it's grown on paper.
That's deep. It's actually deep. That's real deep. We're gonna have to do that.
Growing on the Bible, and
this was founded on His Word.
After you get, your clearing and your trauma out of the way, what do you think are the possibilities or the things that you can start to accomplish, after you're taking trips and going on different journeys, or what type of information will come to you, or you think you'll be able to access?
Well, they're doing those things in Silicon Valley. That's how you get outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Jobs said that when people came to Apple to work, and they were in their interview, he asked them, basically if they dropped any acid or mushrooms and things like that.
Right.
mainly acid at the time because that was one of his things. But you couldn't work there unless you thought different.
I won't talk to a
like Apple
female.
says.
I won't talk to a female that she thinks different. We decided this. We was like, yeah, no, and if you don't, you're not with it. Yeah.
I think that's a big piece of the story that a lot of people are forgetting, you know, or you know.
And people don't know the power or the access of the DMT,
Right.
Which a form of DMT is the mushroom.
Right.
So they don't understand the power of it. They don't understand the access of it. It takes us into multiple dimensions and different places, different times, things like this.
Yes, sir.
It's the true, legitimate spiritualism of this earth.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's not a story that somebody told you. You know, I can say, oh, I went to a planet and, you know, it had orange sand and 3 suns with a purple sky. The water was perfect degrees. You couldn't even drown in it. You could just swim underwater for as long as you want. You just go down and lay down under the water and go to sleep.
Right.
And then when you come out the water, there's a person with 8 arms and the head of a...
And this sounds crazy to
of
everybody.
an elephant.
Yeah.
The head of an elephant walking by, and he's like, hey, how's it going? You know, what they doing down on Earth?
Right.
I'm saying they ain't doing nothing down there. Do y'all
Not
cuss-
believing these
y'all-
exist.
Do y'all cuss on this channel?
Oh yeah, you can say whatever the hell you want. Shit,
Okay,
fuck, we in here.
no, I don't
Yeah,
usually cuss. You know, he can come by and say, what's happening down on Earth? Ain't shit happening down on Earth.
Street gospel.
Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I was one of the things I've noticed is that when I'm talking to people about this, I like to show them places in their modern culture, in their everyday life, where psychedelics are being used or being presented, something that was created from a psychedelic mind or someone who's using them is presenting, like Marvel, that you go into a lot, which I'll have you go into a little bit. But we found something, I was showing it to him, paisley art from the 1960s, I guess, is which all a handkerchief. The whole gangbanging culture is based off of a design that's from seeing that's an LSD design that you see when you're high on LSD from my research. And that's, you know, and so I was showing my son, I was like, all this gangbanging stuff, man, this is psychedelics, man, he was like, man, he really thought that, you know, I'm just trying to bridge that connection. So do you have other instances that you can show people that, like this is, you see this, examples of this being used more than you realize?
Well, I mean, you know, it's pretty obvious that, you know, Parliament Funkadelic with the spaceship landed on the stage, you know, nobody was doing that before they was doing everything.
Right.
Acid, mushrooms, and all that, everything else. Because that's really
People,
part of our
black folks
psychedelic music.
Black folks forget that was even, they just think they was making good music.
Earth,
I'm like,
Wind and Fire, you know, nobody was putting the comedic stuff on their albums and
they albums were beautiful.
Things were going, that's you know, they made the great T-shirts from the album.
Right.
You know,
those I haven't seen that album cover since. Really, those are some of the best covers.
No, they're great. You know, Sly and the Family Stone.
Right.
You know, I went to see Sly and the Family Stone back in the 60s and early 70s. At least 5 times. Sly never made it to the show.
That's the real rock star lifestyle. That's the rock star lifestyle. So, I was going to ask. I forgot what I was going to do. You got a question? I had it.
What you were just talking about with the Marvel thing that you said.
Oh yeah, could you get into a little bit, just briefly, because I know you can drop on Marvel, and a lot of people don't realize, but just some of that history of the guys behind Marvel and what they were doing while they were coming up with all this creative stuff they seem to just be pulling from the ether.
Well, a lot of it, the majority of it, 85 to 90% of it was Jack Kirby, not Stan Lee. You know, Stan Lee was the kid that used to go get donuts and coffee from the guy who actually owned the comic book company before they passed it down to him. And he really couldn't get anything going until Jack Kirby came in and did the Fantastic Four. And he started talking about Galactus and the Eternals and multidimensional travel and all these kind of things.
Right.
Doctor Strange came up, you know, but it was basically a C character in Marvel. Didn't even have his own comic book. They'd always pair him with the Human Torch or the Thing or somebody. And he was just kind of like regulated to obscurity.
Right.
But in 1974, Steve Englehart and Frank Bruner reimagined Doctor Strange into the master of the mystic arts.
Right.
And how they would make their deadlines was they'd be in the East Village in New York and they'd drop acid and eat mushrooms and stuff like that. And through their experiences in those realms, that's how they made their deadlines. So they made Doctor Strange into the Doctor Strange that you saw in the last Doctor Strange movie and then in end game and things like that.
Right.
But they're really getting ready to come with it with the next movie, which is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because it's going to be basically Marvel's first horror movie, and they're getting ready to go with it full blast with information from the basement of the Vatican and
which is exciting.
different types of offbeat, offshoot spiritual systems that nobody hears about or knows about and things like that. So it's going to be a heck of a movie.
Right. I mean, I'm excited. The first one was blew me away with just all the little jewels they were dropping, and they drop a lot of jewels in these Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conscious brothers. KT's one of them. KT's so deep with Marvel comic information. He's like just to the moon with it. I never really paid attention really as a kid. I was just enjoying it.
Look at Black Panther was eating a mushroom, but
they
made it the purple herb and things like that.
Right. But still, if I tell black folks,
Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange, he drunk the tea before she hit him in the chest and knocked his astral form out of his body.
He asked, "What'd you give me?"
What'd you give me? LSD, psilocybin?
Yeah. He did. And people, but I show people that, and I talk to people, and they just think I'm crazy.
It's just fictitious.
So someone in the class had asked, and I wanted to get your view on this because from watching a lot of your videos, there are a lot of Europeans that are definitely into this. They're probably keeping it alive more than anybody else at this time right now. And when I would watch your interviews or your lectures in Europe, when the camera would turn around, and it doesn't turn around a lot usually, it's usually about 30 minutes long, but if it would, the whole room, remember I'd be like, man, the whole room it doesn't look anything like me in this room, you know what I'm saying? And so why do you think, what's the hang up, what created the hang up? Briefly, because I know you could go into detail on what happened, but why do you think the hang up is, and what do you think it would take to kind of reconnect that misleading? And do Europeans ask this question to you too about us? Are they curious about why the gods aren't taking?
Well,
that's a good question.
I get that question all the time. They ask me to do a talk on diversity and why black people aren't there. I had a genuinely crazy conversation with Michael Pollan, who is he's the darling of the psychedelic movement now, where he says somebody asked a question in New York at the Horizons conference, which is basically PhD psychiatrists, psychologists, all middle-aged to old white men and something like that. They'll bring a token woman in and a token, and if it's a good year, they'll bring a token woman in and she's black. Right. So they have we have the woman, we have the black person. Now let's go with our buddies. Right. That type of thing. So Michael Pollan said, well, no, the question to Michael Pollan was, well, why don't we have more black men in the psychedelic movement? Right. And Michael Pollan sat back and said, well, black men aren't, they aren't comfortable in their bodies, and they don't really know about this type of space and stuff like that. And so, me being one of the 3 black men in
and this is a European man saying this.
Yeah, okay. Michael Pollan, he's a...
Right, I'm just making sure the listeners understand. This is not a brother saying this about brothers. It's a European noticing something about
so
us.
I'm like... And I went over and said, well, number one, since you're not a black man, how would you know how a black man feels in his body? I said that was an arrogant statement to make. And in the midst of me saying, basically it was foolish, the head of the person who was the head of the conference, I didn't see him, but he was running behind me, and he tried to snatch the microphone from me. Said, this question is over. And so we're going back and, you're lucky you didn't get one of these. But we're going back and forth with the microphone. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Because what it's going to be is Kilindi Iyi at the biggest conference in New York City was fighting with the person who was there, and he, and it's going to look like, I mean, to beat this guy up or whatever. So I said, okay, I'll catch you afterwards. So I gave him the microphone, and then, he was having a book signing.
So talking about the book signing?
I went and got in line, and, I'm, in the queue and moving up. I got about 3 people from me. All right. It's over with. Last one.
Yeah, well,
See
no
y'all
problem.
later.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't seen him. I've been chasing him all over the world.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you'll bump it. It's a small community.
To catch him, and I'm not gonna do anything to him. I just want to ask him. I just want to finish our conversation.
Yeah, he obviously doesn't want to finish.
No, he don't want to finish.
So what do you feel? Because I was to what the European brother has said. What we've noticed a lot of times is that brothers do seem to be afraid of their mind. Maybe not comfortable in their bodies, but afraid of their own mind.
That's the first thing I always do. I don't know what I'm gonna see.
The super spiritual people are the worst.
Yes.
If I just grab the brother on the street and I say, brother, this is what's happening. We got a lecture. Come on down. And they okay, I understand. I'm all in, and I can't kill myself with it. Fine, I'll try it. But you get the super high priest, muck, folks like that, holy spiritual, walking around with candles and stuff and things like that. And tell them, no, brother, I'm already there.
Yeah.
I don't need any
Like,
external,
right.
External stimuli to
External
bring about my spiritualness.
Right.
And I'm like, look,
Good
We
impersonation.
kinda do.
You don't kind of do. It's. I try to explain it. It's detrimental. Like it's very important that you get into this, but people just fight it and it's my own people. Like people I know
People
that are
are
close
afraid
to
of
me, and I'm like,
themselves,
I'm like, man, listen, it's
That's why
fine.
you
It's
say
like,
all the time.
yeah,
you're afraid of yourself.
Yeah, they're afraid of their own mind.
Right.
What do you
And this
think-
is what, and this is the what you need to deal with that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing wrong with being afraid or fearful.
Right.
But that's where you conquer your fear. That's
Lean
where you
in.
push forward.
Yeah.
Because see, this thing is real. It's not fake. It's not something that somebody made up.
Right.
And then don't listen to me, because I'm not trying to
Exactly.
put myself up as the grand muck, anything like that. You coming in bowing to me and showering me.
You're
with
saying you
gifts
can
and
do this
things like
too.
that.
You can do this too.
It's
You can
everybody.
travel
It's
the world.
everybody. We all the same. There's no experts in this thing.
Right.
There's no
Yeah, 'cause the mushrooms
masters
humble
in this
you.
thing. I've been humbled many times.
The mushrooms will humble you.
As many times I've said, you can get arrogant,
Yeah.
and it hadn't happened in at least, 15, 20 years,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm the mushroom man, I got this, stuff like that.
Right.
And then I take a large dose, and
Well,
once I hit the
what's a large
ground,
dose?
once I hit the ground afterwards, I'm like, okay, I'll just wait and be quiet and not do anything, because it will humble you.
So what's a large dose? Because people hear, most people, like if you go online, they're like, the recommended safe dose is anything below 3 grams, right? And you're saying, and a coach over here is saying, minimum 5, right, coach?
Minimum.
Minimum 5.
The kids start off at
The
5.
kids, look, do you, that's to people, and I'm sure you know this, the people who even do shrimp, that's crazy sounding most people. They're like, what do you mean? Kids are doing 5 grams? Like most people, that's a tough dosage. They call that what's the name?
Heroic.
I tried it though. It didn't feel that heroic, honestly. I did 5 and it didn't feel. It was fun. It was great, but it didn't feel like, oh, this is the end of all this. Most people won't push past 3.5.
And in those high doses, what do you recommend a person do while they're taking it?
Lock their cell phone in another room,
Okay.
so you can't call. Scare your mama.
Right.
Mama, I just understood that I'm God.
That was actually
That's gonna happen.
I got
So take your cell phone and,
Right.
and put it in the drawer. And
I can't even make mine out good though. Actually, it's
Yeah,
it's so many colors on it. It
Yeah.
gets to a hologram, and then you're like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and see if you're really in, it really wouldn't matter if you had your cell phone or not, because you couldn't do nothing with it. The cell phone be then turned into some
Might not even be there,
supercomputer or
right.
whatever. But don't have no candles and fire and stuff like that, because you don't want that thing in you the fire guy and knock the candle over and hit the curtains and you'd burn the house up and you standing there.
Right. Now that's real.
That
That's
would
real.
be
Yeah,
me,
I usually
And you recommend a sitter, correct? You recommend a sitter?
Well, for the first 3 times,
Right.
we recommend a sitter. And a sitter is not a guru, it's not a master, it's not the high priest. They're not gonna tell you about how to align your chakras while you're in there and all that kind of
Right,
stuff.
right.
It's just to stop you from
Doing dumb
doing dumb stuff.
So basically just lay in the bed and just let it kind of take
In the dark.
Lay in the bed, because that's the best and safest place to be. If you fall, you know, you can't fall nothing between the bed and the floor.
Right, right. It might
I'm
seem
sure
like
everybody
you
do.
fell into the bed, but
No, you might fall off the bed into the floor.
right, right.
That kind of stuff. But you know, that's a safe place to be. And your sitter is there to, you know, like I said, stop you. You know, you may want to go outside and things like that.
Right.
Now there are times when you take smaller doses, like 5 grams, go out in nature and stuff like that.
I love that you say smaller doses.
You know, the you know, that people experience the woods and talk to the trees
Right.
and, you know, maybe be on the edge of the ocean and watch the waves come in, or, you know,
It's beautiful. I've
5
never
grams,
experienced more beauty.
make love, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know,
all that.
all that. But, you know, in the higher doses, that's the real work.
So we talking 15, 20, 30 doses higher?
20.
When is it considered big boy? When are you, because I haven't hit
All
big
of
boy
it's,
status
all
yet.
of it's.
So
well,
what's,
first of all,
because
first
Coach
of all,
probably
let me
like,
say-
15, what's
First of all, let me say this. Anybody that takes any amount of psilocybin, I take my hat off to them because it takes courage,
Facts.
it takes faith,
Shout out to us.
and those different type of things. So I'm not belittling people that take 5 grams and things like that. I just call it low doses because most of the people that I'm working with, we're working with high doses. We're taking, you know, people taking 15, 20, 25, 30, you know, and people talk about body weight and things like that. You know, we have sisters, you know, in their early 20s, taking 30 grams dry,
Right.
you know, things like that. So
So how do you ingest 30 grams, or what do you think is the
Yeah,
best
right.
way
Just like-
to get that down?
just like you eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
Just eat it.
Okay, so
Yeah,
do
you
you
just
grind
chew
them
it.
up, or do you just eat them whole?
There's a lot of different protocols people do, and I've done most of the protocols just so that I can be able to speak on them intelligently.
Right.
You know, you put them on pizza, in a smoothie, you know, put them in
I'm a
brownies.
soma guy. I'm a soma
all
guy.
that kind of
I like
stuff.
to make the tea.
You know, make the tea, lemon tech, all that.
Right.
And all that's fine and well to do to try if you want to try it.
Mhm.
But the real work
Eating 30.
is eating 30 grams.
Okay.
You know, hey, people go to Burger King, eat a quarter pounder with cheese. Now you're gonna tell me 30? You ain't
Now,
never
can I
had
put
a
cheese on
you
the
ain't never,
mushroom?
people.
That's
hey,
helping.
You
I
put it
got
on
a
the pizza.
question, though.
If you put it on the pizza,
And then
you know, it's
do
got
you,
cheese
do
on
you
it.
recommend the empty? Because we were having a discussion about
That's
this in
what
the
I was
class.
about to ask.
I've noticed and he's noticed the empty stomach thing kind of doesn't seem fully to be something you have to do because it seems like sometimes they actually sit better with food and it's actually a smoother up.
Well,
Or come up there.
everybody has to find their own path of
Right.
what they do. Some people fast before they do it. Not really fast, but don't eat that
Right,
day.
right, right.
Some people fast for 3 days. You know, some people will go to Burger King and eat a quarter pounder with cheese before they eat them.
Right, right.
You know,
Get out
so
of bed,
it's
something
it
simple.
has to see what your how your stomach is.
So develop
Because
your own ritual.
there's more serotonin receptor sites in your stomach than in your brain. So
Right, right.
when the psilocin is docking, when the DMT is docking in the serotonin receptor site, you can get nauseous sometimes, and some people throw up. You know, my son, he throws up every single time.
Wow. You were
I
saying
don't,
the
I don't,
ginger.
yeah, I don't, you know, I throw up sometimes.
Right, right.
But then I go and count the mushrooms in the toilet and just go to the refrigerator and, you know, because once you throw up, it's pretty much over with. I
Right.
eat the same amount of mushrooms that I see
I was so
in the
mad.
toilet.
I was so the first time I did when I was laughing in the mirror, I
Mhm.
ended up throwing up. And I was so upset after I was laughing the whole time, but when I threw up, I was so mad. I was like, "Oh man, I let him out," and I didn't have any more. Like, you have large quantities, I guess, so you can do that. Yeah,
Sometimes, you know, you get it'll bite in enough for you to get
Yeah.
a really a good trip if you throw up.
Any stomach remedies that you recommend along the
Well-
way with taking them?
Well, it's mostly with me the smell.
Okay, yeah, smell it.
So I have a elite super swimming nose plug that I put on, and I eat them. Not every time, because half the time I lose the doggone nose plug, but and just chew them straight up.
Uh-huh.
I hold my nose sometimes, but you just chew them because if you can't smell them, I mean if you can't smell them, you can't taste them.
Okay.
And then afterwards, I'll go and rinse my mouth, brush my teeth, and then I'll have some ginger tea to kind of calm my stomach.
Okay.
And then, you know, from there it's, you know, go to the bedroom, turn the light out, lay down, close my eyes, and then ask Scotty, are the engines ready?
Last thought.
Scotty, yes, Captain, we're ready to go. And I say, well, soon take us out. Warp 10.
I think I'm gonna live by that. If you can't smell it, you can't taste it. That's not how I'm gonna live my life, you know. Just approaching everything with that way. One last question before we go.
Yeah.
We gotta get up out of here for the Neferteria show. Ages. I was surprised. KT was talking the other day about Sadie giving him mushrooms at 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say about ages? What would you say is the appropriate age? I know your answer is going to go against what people would think, so I get it, but I just want you to break it down real quickly for people who don't get about it.
Well, I'll give you my version, then I'll give you the legal version. Well, with children, of course, it's kind of sketchy on how you do with that, because, you know, if you gave it to a 10-year-old, you know, go to school, yeah, well, I had a mushroom trip last night, my father there, and then you're in jail. You're in jail, and your children are somewhere in foster care, you know. But
telling them about the
some people believe that they have cognitive liberty and that they have the sovereign right to give their children the best of what they feel is for them.
Right.
So you have some people whom I don't know,
Right.
who, you know, start their children out at like 13,
Right.
As a rite of passage,
Right.
so that they understand and know that there's something more for real.
Which is important. So
You know, there are other realms, there are other places that these things,
Right.
it's not just, oh, Jesus moved the rock away and came out, you know, he was dead for 3 days and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a nice tale.
Right.
And it's a good read, but, you know, give them something real that they can experience.
Right.
And, you know, there are those women who, you know, they had in 2016, the Women in Intelligence Conference, and the theme of the conference, which was started by the great Kilindi Iyi, that during pregnancy, during birth, during breastfeeding, that psilocybin is done through all those times. And in places like San Jose de Pacifico in Mexico, the children they started children out like 6.
Right.
And they had their own children mushroom ceremonies. In other places in the world, it's part of the rites, the legitimate rites of passage.
So it feels like
Not
it's just been
yeah.
cut off, basically.
Yeah, not just, you know, you learn it in Guzu Saba,
Right.
and, you know, you can recite, you know, Malcolm's speech or something like that, but legitimate going into other worlds and experiencing other things and other separate realities from this reality.
Right.
So, just to put the information out there to plug, we have the Detroit Psychedelic Conference coming
Yes,
up.
I was just about to
August,
mention that.
August
We're gonna
7th.
plug that cause we coming, so we
Yeah.
plugging that every week.
August 7th, 8th, and 9th, in the wonderful and beautiful city of Detroit, in Michigan. And we'll be having international speakers from all over. It's basically it is an urban, you know, psychedelic conference, because most of the conferences are at, you know, the big universities and things like that. They have big sponsors and things like that. So this is a grassroots conference. So we want everybody to come out.
Okay.
And help and participate. And I want to hear Sister's question.
He actually had.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay.
One other question. Is Mike Tyson invited, and is he coming possibly? Because I play people that told clip of him discussing it and crying.
Yeah.
Because I want people to see, like, look at Mike. Look at the transformation he's having. But is he coming to the
Well, we're going to see about inviting him. Dr. Jerry, Dr. Jerry and Yi administered the toad to him.
Yeah.
And
so that was y'all, Dr. Jerry? That did that?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he's the one who gave.
Come. When is that? When? April?
Yeah, it's coming up in April.
I'm sorry, I got
He'll be back in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But we're going to, through Dr. Jerry and Coach Oyi, invite him, and hopefully he'll come through and be part of it. We love for him to come, because it shows part of the transformation of what's going on with Indians. You know, you can make Mike Tyson, you know, say, you know, hey, you know, it's something better out here than you.
Listen to the chant. That's telling you something. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely telling you something. I don't think people get that though at all. So, Baba, I appreciate you coming in today. We have to get up out of here. This was great. It was, I believe, a lot of people learned a lot from this. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of questions And we're gonna keep pushing for this conference. What was the dates again on the conference?
August 7th, 8th, and 9th.
August 7th, 8th, and 9th.
And we're gonna be back here in Atlanta in a few months. You'll get the information. Hopefully you'll
Okay, and I was
put it
looking
out
at
there.
I'm glad you're coming
the
back.
Thank you
doctor
for
with the
having me.
toes, all that up here. We gotta get you up here. We got big things coming here at the Street Gospel Show, Hits 92.3, the real definition of internet radio. Everybody say bye, baby long way, say bye to the people.
See y'all next week.
See y'all next week. Demo, say peace, my brother.
I want to thank you again for coming out, and yeah, we'll see y'all next week, and we'll be answering any questions that we can in the comment section once we post this. And actually, I have one more question.
Go ahead. We'll take the fee.
Daytime or nighttime usage, or does that even matter when you get into the higher doses?
High dose is nighttime, and then occasionally you can do it during the day to see, just to see the difference and things like that. So it's no set thing. But thank you both for having me here. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And I'll see you all in a few months.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We definitely coming through. So we're gonna get up out of here. I'm gonna drop this old school record for the evening. This is Delegation's Old Honey. And once again, thank y'all for rocking out with us. This was Sunday Fun Day on the Street Gospel Show. Hits 92.3. Bye.
Good show.
Bomb, bomb.
I learned a lot today.
Good stuff.
We're all in this week. We gotta step.
Hold on, I got this clip.
They've been trying to get me and my friends on the team for weeks.
Go ahead.
I said I would give it a try, but I
told her.
This is Kilindi Iyi, and we're listening to the Street Gospel, 92.3 Hits.
It sound like OG, old school. You got some radio background too? What's that going
That
on?
show till they kick me off. I told them they should hang it there, but that's after that I was kind of
That was the
I
end.
didn't actually say hang the man, but they interpreted it that way.
Oh, okay.
I used to work with different, stars and stuff like that.
Roger
They'd be
that.
standing there doing that thing for hours. Aaliyah, when I was with Aaliyah, she'd be like, hey, can you take
So you was
WXYZ. Aaliyah. Becoming one after another.
all in one row. Yeah.
All right.
Can we get it?
Yeah. Let's just tell you how to put nephews in here.
Not really. Every once in a while you get somebody that want to go ham, but that's few and far between. Their personality shows you that prior to,
You got no problem with me.